situated. Sorry, my computer, I thought I had it plugged in and I did not. And the battery died 2 minutes before this was supposed to start. So then I was racing to get it booted back up and get on this Zoom. All right, I'm going to share some slides in the chat and then I will start sharing my screen. Here's our slides. And to start screen sharing. Pull this over. All right. And we're going to get going. So, e-learning fun. All right. So, e-learning days in BCSC slides are there. I am recording this also, by the way. So, if you don't want to have your face on camera, totally understand, but it will be captured. If you turn on your camera, you have it as an option. Slides are in the chat, and I'm also going to be toggling back and forth a little bit between my slides and Canvas so that I can show you some examples of what we'll be doing, what your e-learning lessons could look like. And then if you have questions too, definitely let me know. I'm going to go over a few of just the expectation pieces for e-learning days first, and then we'll get into more of what this looks like in Canvas and just some tips for being efficient in designing these in Canvas and really just helping you prepare for the day. So e-learning days in BCSC, our game plan is to get ready to prepare our courses and then also get familiar with some of the logistics as well. So e-learning days in BCSC are virtual learning days, and on those virtual learning days, students do not report to the buildings. Staff also do not have to report to buildings. We have some teachers who like to come to the school, so if they have more reliable internet at the school, they can. It's definitely not required. Now, if we do have a certain type of travel advisory, they will lock down the buildings so that you can't go to them, but that would be announced on the initial e-learning announcement on any social media that we put out there as well. So whenever we have an e-learning day, typically the chain of command is the superintendent contacts me or our tech director, and then we get everything ready and going. And then typically there'll be a message that's sent out to all of our staff first before they put something out to the public. If we have an e-learning day or potential for one, and the weather forecast is looking like we're absolutely going to have snow or absolutely have something the next day, a lot of principals will plan ahead and send home devices the night before so that students have those. So really your building principal is also going to be looking and giving you some communication on that. But when it comes to where students go on an e-learning day, they're learning at home, learning wherever they are, and the resources need to be posted on Canvas. That does not mean that the only website you can use on e-learning day is Canvas, but everything needs to be captured there in some way, shape, or form, because that's the common location where we're telling all of our families to go. It's one-stop shop for everything. It could be your jumping off board into other places. Other logistics related to e-learning days. So the maximum number of e-learning days we can have here in BCSC is 3. So the way our schedule is set up is that any time we have a canceling for inclement weather, so snow, flooding, we've actually had more flooding related e-learning days than snow. Whenever we have one of those is when it's going to be an e-learning day for the whole district. We go be more than 3 e-learning days for inclement weather. That's when we add on days at the end of the school year. There's a state law, some changes that the Indiana Department of Education made where you're just limited on the number of e-learning days that you can have, because there were some school districts that were not one-to-one that also did not have a learning management system that were having lots of e-learning days, and really they weren't doing any type of direct instruction on those days. So that was really a guardrail put in place because of that. So if we have any type of delay or cancellation like that, Parent Square is how we'll communicate it to families, but we'll also post things on social media, and we'll send out an all-staff email so that you'll know beforehand, as well as an all-staff text message too. And then Canvas is the main thing for where you'll post your lessons, but we do have an e-learning website. I'm going to drop that here in the chat for you as well. So the e-learning website that I'm dropping here, this is really more intended for students and families, and is a really great place to point them before any learning day, getting them familiar with it, It is a button that's on our BCSC website, so it is pretty easy to find. But the nice thing about this e-learning website is it has a lot of helpful guides and tips here for families, so they know where to go, they know how to navigate Canvas. And we've even put some guides. This is new this school year. We have Canvas training guides here for families in multiple languages. So there's tutorial videos, there's also printed guides, and we have guides in 7 to 8 languages, depending on whether it's elementary or secondary. Just makes it nice so the families have a way to make sure that they're supporting the kid, they know where to go, and to get their materials. So that's some of the logistics pieces. Last few key details to know as a teacher. Your lessons have to be on Canvas, or your lesson material, game plan for the day has to be on Canvas by 9 a.m. If you want to post it beforehand, you can totally do that. We have some people who do. We have others who are like working on their lesson plan that morning and they'll have it ready by 9. So it's totally up to you on what you would like to do. There's the expectation that it's there by 9, but you don't have to have it on there beforehand. Students have 3 days after an e-learning day to be marked present or to earn present attendance for an e-learning day. When I say 3 days, it's 3 school days. So if we have an e-learning day on a Monday, they have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to work on those things, and it needs to be done before that Friday. If we have an e-learning day on a Friday, then they have until basically the middle of the next week to turn in those materials. And we know that we have some students who have limited internet access, especially out in like the Mount Healthy area, that region of the city in the county. So that's why it's important that we give students these multiple days to make up those resources. When I was in the classroom, we had e-learning days. That's when I would give some of my kiddos who lived out in that area. I would give them paper versions of what we did, so they had another way to engage that wasn't reliant on a computer, especially if that was not something that was easy for them. But it's also helpful if you incorporate some online and offline activities as a part of your e-learning day plan, so that if a student has their Chromebook and they have some internet access, they can do activities, but not necessarily have to be on like a Google Meet the entire day, which takes up a lot of bandwidth. We do have a hotline and an email. So primarily that's for students and families. So if they get stuck, they don't know how to log into something, they can reach out to us, and it's on the screen. It's been pretty much the same phone number from all of the other times that we've had e-learning days. And then we do have some hotspots available. Those are really at a first come, first serve basis. And typically the principal or guidance counselor has identified the families that need those. And a lot of those families already have those hotspots and they've been using them throughout the school year. But if you know of a kiddo in your class that maybe doesn't have the most reliable internet at home, you can talk to your principal and see if they can get you one of those hotspots for that student or their family. And then ideally, you're there to answer questions on e-learning day to help the students, and the window of time that you need to be available is from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Doesn't mean you have to be glued to your phone or glued to your device the entire time. Give yourself like 10 to 15 minutes to, if a student asks a question, that's usually the general time to follow up. So it doesn't have to be instant, especially because we know that you're doing lots of different things those days, but that's the time frame to where you're kind of on the clock to help families out. And families can reach out to you via Parent Square, which is really what a lot of them do for elementary age students, or they can utilize the Canvas inbox. So that's really the big pieces related to logistics. I'm going to skip through some of this, but now we're just going to talk some of the Canvas pieces and best practices. But before I dig into that, I didn't know if you had any specific questions that you want to make sure that I cover before I pull up Canvas and start showing you some stuff there. All right, and if you have a question that comes up and you want to put that in the chat, you can absolutely do that. I know that sometimes that's an easier way to ask questions versus muting, especially if you have something going on in your classroom or kids in there after school, things like that. So certainly ask questions. So I'm going to start pulling up Canvas and just giving you some tips and advice. And as questions pop into your brain, let me know. The big piece is that make sure that you're getting some familiarity with Canvas before we have an e-learning day. So chances are you're probably using it to get students into their curriculum resources and things like that. But there's also some other features that are helpful to know for these days. So Canvas has a lot of bells and whistles. There's lots of things that you can do. And specifically, the modules feature is really helpful for an e-learning day, as well as configuring your homepage so that it's set with very specific e-learning information. So I'm going to pull up one of my courses and get that situated to where you can see it. Let me see. Sorry, it's slowly loading. Probably doesn't help that I have way too many courses on here. I think this is the one I want, hopefully. Okay, yeah, this is it. All right, so the way that our Canvas courses are set up is it kind of looks like this, the homepage does. Right here is this feature in Canvas called announcements. And then below that is technically where your homepage is for your Canvas course. So a lot of us have a homepage where there's like a little banner image, there's a space for you to add a welcome message. And then further down is where you have your curriculum tools and resources. So you can certainly keep your homepage as it is, but just add a little blurb at the top about e-learning. But my nugget of advice is to actually create a copy of your traditional homepage, and that serve as your e-learning day homepage. And you can keep it here, always have a fresh copy for if you have future e-learning days. The benefit of doing that is that if you are wanting to have like a similar welcome message on here for all the days that aren't e-learning days, then you probably don't want to be deleting things, and making a copy just saves you some time down the road. The other piece that I would recommend is that this announcement space in Canvas is not quite the same as your homepage. It's a separate thing. But the announcements page in Canvas is a really helpful space to give like a quick blurb of information, and it's always at the very top of this Canvas course page. So my thinking here and best practice would be to put an announcement here that says e-learning lesson, click here. So that as soon as students get into your course, they see that, they click it, they're taken to the page that has all the e-learning information. And then to probably over communicate, because I think the more times you tell students where to go, the more likely they are to get there, is I would set my homepage below here to also be all the e-learning information. So to do that, there's a couple of ways, and I'm just going to build here as we go and show you. So if I am in my Canvas course, and if I want to start editing, looking at all the stuff that I have, if I click Manage Subject, it pulls me into the editing view in my Canvas course, so I can see things, change things as I need to. And then what I'm going to do is over here on this left-hand menu, and if you don't see this right away, you'll need to click this line button. It's kind of hiding your course navigation menus. But here on this left-hand side is where I have all these buttons and things available to me in Canvas. And what I'm going to do is go down to where it says modules. And in modules is where I can see all of the pages that I've built out in my Canvas course. You probably have a page in your Canvas course that's just called like homepage, or it might be in this instructor module. It's just like the standard homepage that's been copied into every teacher's course. But what I did is I made a module in here and I called it e-learning day. You can change the date, make it whatever you want. But the benefit of going through and making this e-learning module is that it's another place where the students can go to find the e-learning information. And then it's helpful for you as the teacher in the future that when you're looking for things, looking for pages, it's organized in this common space. So modules in Canvas are kind of like folders. They make sense of all of the stuff that you have. It's a way to organize everything. So I like to make one that's just called e-learning, and I know everything in here is e-learning day related. So what I did is I made that module just by going up here, plus module, gave it a name. And I put a date on that one, but you didn't have to if you don't want to. And then below that, I put in a page. So what I did is I went and I clicked this plus button, and that's how I add things to my module. So actually what I did is this was a home page in my course already, and I just made a copy of it. I went over here to where it has 3 dots, duplicate, and now I have a copy of my home page. So I can also create from scratch if I want to, but if I click the plus button, page, create page, that creates a blank one. So I can do like eLearning homepage or whatever I want it to be. Add it. And now it is in this eLearning day piece. So I already have one made. And what I would honestly recommend is that if you know that you're going to have students go to HMH, or you know you're going to have them go to Eureka at some point, make a copy of your course homepage, which you can do from that module screen that I showed you. And then at the top where it has welcome information, just change that to where it's the eLearning information. So you're not having to copy in all of these links over again. They're already here for you. All right, so that makes it a little bit easier, is if you technically you can go to the pages menu and make copies from there, but I like making a module called eLearning days just because it's fewer clicks to duplicate something, and then it keeps it all nice in here and organized. All right, so on these eLearning day pages, it's super easy to edit a page. So if I wanted to make this my own, I had this blank one that we just made. Maybe see if it'll slowly pull it up here for us. All right, so if I wanted to make this my own, edit pencil is how I can go through and begin doing that. So I can type out information about eLearning days. Welcome. eLearning day instructions. And I would probably put that in a bulleted list just so it's clear for my students. A cool thing about a page is that you can record audio and video. And when we're thinking about elementary kiddos or younger students, it's super helpful that we don't make everything so text heavy just because they're striving readers. They're still learning how to read. So I would go through this little upload record media. I can record myself all here in Canvas, and it embeds it there right away. So the kids can listen to me giving instructions on what they're going to be doing for that day. Excuse me, I have a tickle in my throat. All right, so it's probably going to wig out because I'm already camera on this Zoom. So it's going to say my camera is busy. But I could record right here, my webcam or just my mic, and it adds it to my course. All right. If I needed to add in links, link button here on Canvas is how to do that. If I wanted to put pictures, other things in, super easy to do. If you are someone who really likes Google resources, there is a Google button right here. And if I click that, I can pull in anything I've made in my Google Drive into my Canvas course, and it embeds it. So I was someone who loved building things in Google Slides. My brain kind of works in slideshows. So I can pull in my slides for the day, and it's right there for the students to easily access, and it's embedded in the page, hard for them to miss. So if I go through and I build out all of my eLearning information, all of my resources, I'll go down the page and I'll just do save and publish. So if I save something, it's saved here, but I'm the only one who can see it as the teacher. But if I publish it, that means everyone can see it. If something isn't published, then only the teacher can see it, the kiddos can't. So I want to save and publish. And now I have it set in this little eLearning module. So how do we get students to this is usually the question that people will ask me afterwards. So if I go back to my subject, this is kind of the same. My page here doesn't look super fancy. I haven't really done a whole lot yet. What I would do is kind of what I referenced at the beginning and make this eLearning announcement here. So if I click the plus announcement button, it turns into a view where I can type out eLearning instructions. I can say, let's get ready to eLearn. Click here to go to your eLearning lesson. Message me if you have questions. Totally up to you on the level of detail you want to put there. If you even wanted to put a video of yourself explaining that right there, you could. You have all of these different buttons here. You can put in your slides, all of your things. The announcement tool, which is what we're using right now, is just really good for kind of short snippets of information, but you can add in some multimedia. So what I would do is where I say click here to go to your e-learning lesson, I am going to create a link. So if I highlight it, I'd like to make it bold so it stands out for the kiddos. And then this link button, I go to course link. That is going to show me everything in my Canvas course that I have already built and what I've already made. So the nice thing with that is that we already went through and we made that e-learning module. We already made an e-learning page. So I can either link to that e-learning page from here, or I can just link to that e-learning module if there's a couple of things I want the kids to look at. So if I click where it says modules, I can select e-learning day. It highlights it over here, underlines it. It's now showing up as a link. So I can close my little link builder over here and then scroll down and click publish. And now if I go back to my subject, our homepage is going to look a little bit different. And now as soon as my kids get into the course, they see this, click here to go to your e-learning lesson. And if I click it, it takes them to this e-learning day module. So what some teachers have done to make this as visually guided and obvious to the kids as possible is they make a button here and they make a big picture here that says e-learning, and then it takes the kids there. So you can go to Canva for those buttons. You can make them in Google Slides, whatever you would like to do. You can make a button and put it there. And then if I wanted to change, like I already did this here, but if you're right below this is technically your home page in Canvas, if this is still showing like your traditional home page, then you can change it to one that's more e-learning focused. So if I go to my manage subject button and I go to pages, pages will show me all of the pages that are currently active in my Canvas course. So if you have like this curriculum resources page, but you want to make it an e-learning page for the day, I can go to view all pages. And I'm going to find that e-learning page that we just made a little bit ago. I think it was just called e-learning. All right. So it's right here. And then over to this right-hand side, there's a 3-dot button. And I'm going to make this my subject home. All right. So you can always change what your subject home is. You can change your home page at any point in time if you want. A lot of teachers like to change it on an e-learning day to make it the e-learning day page, just so it's another reminder of the kids on where to go. So to show you what that looks like, if I go back to my subject, this is what the kids see. This is what my course looks like. So I have my instructions right here that tell the kids to go there. And then here's that page. You know, I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it. It doesn't look super great, but this is my e-learning day page. I can build out links to other places. I can put my HMH link on there, my Eureka Math, whatever I need to do. And I do have a guide that's actually in my slides. So I'm going to move out of this for a second. But everything I just showed you that I walked through kind of quickly is on the slide deck that I shared for you. So all of this is there, screenshots, tutorial GIFs on how to do this, as well as adding in pictures, the website links that we just did, adding a link to some of those resources. It is all there. So your e-learning lessons don't have to be super complicated. You know, the idea is that you're continuing what you would already be doing that day, just a little bit more of a digital twist. But really the piece that I would focus on is making your course very easy for the students to navigate and making sure that they get to your page or resources as efficiently as possible. All right. Questions over any of that? All right. So we are getting close to time. I'm going to give you one other tidbit that I think is helpful that I wish was around when I was coming up with e-learning lessons back in the day. So we have a really cool, exciting new feature in Canvas, and it's this AI tool called Conmigo. And I did put this earlier on in the presentation. It's not as buried back there with all the screenshots, but it's fantastic. Every teacher has access to this. And this is a teacher-only AI tool, and it's amazing for helping you plan. So I'm thinking a lot of the times when e-learning days were called in the past, when I was making my lessons, I feel like I found out that we were having an e-learning day at like 2 o'clock in the morning or like 3 or 4 a.m. And then I'm like, okay, I had this plan for what we're doing for the day, and now I have to totally change that. And maybe rewriting my instructions was a big part of it, or rethinking my activities. And it took me a lot of time, and I can use these AI tools to help me rethink that, or at least speed up my workflow a little bit better. So Conmigo is available in Canvas. To access it, I do have tutorial guides here. I'm going to show you how to do it pretty quickly. But if I pull up, there it is. I have way too many tabs open. Not shocking. But if I go into my Canvas course and I go to navigation, I need to make sure that Conmigo Teacher Tools is up there. By default, it's probably further down on your page. But if I click and drag Conmigo to where it's an active menu item, meaning it's up here with these others, it's not italicized. And if I scroll further down, I'll click save. And now what I'm going to do is go back to my subject. And this is how I launch the tool, and I can use it to help me write my e-learning lesson or rethink my assignments, knowing that my kids are going to be learning virtual. If I'm on my course homepage here, there's this resources button. And if I click resources, there is Conmigo. So if I click Conmigo, it's going to sign me in. If you've not accessed this yet, the first time it's going to ask you to make an account, and you can do that with your BCS Google account, and then it remembers you. And then from here, I can go through and I can make clear directions for my e-learning day. If I need to rethink maybe what we're doing that day, I can click lesson plan, and it's like this really nice little chat bot that can help me do this. So if it's an e-learning day, I am teaching about the Mongol Empire, and it is a virtual e-learning day. Right. And then I can paste in my objectives here. Actually, I'm just going to say Mongol Empire. Paste this further down. A virtual e-learning day. I need a blend of low-tech and high-tech options for my middle school students, because we have varying connectivity speeds. You would type in whatever you needed, and then I'll just do start. And then Conmigo is going to give me some advice. All right. So it's going to give me objectives, going to make a really detailed lesson plan for me, some ideas of what I can do that day. So I might not use all of the stuff that it tells me, but it's like I have a nice little thought partner here, a lesson plan assistant for this e-learning day. And especially because a lot of those days you're having to pivot pretty quickly to get those plans adjusted. This is a nice resource to have at your disposal. So when you use Conmigo like this to plan, right now, like no one can see this just other than just me as the teacher. So it's not something the students can get to. If I like any of the stuff that was made and I do want to like paste that onto a Canvas page, I do just have to copy this and then paste it wherever. So I would usually probably open another tab and have my Canvas page or whatever I needed, open there and copy and paste. And I can always come back and access this again. Anytime I launch Conmigo, there's a little 3-dot button here in this chat history, opens up all of my chats, and I can access everything, especially, you get interrupted or you're tinkering with it and you want to go back to it, you can always revisit what you made. So that's just a helpful newer tool that we have. This is brand new as of like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, very, very new. It is helpful for e-learning planning. So we're at 4:01. I blocked this off to go until about 4. And the rest of this really just kind of give you some screenshots of what we talked through. If you have questions or need some additional resources, I am going to put this recording available to everyone. The last bit I would say is I do have this e-learning readiness checklist that I'm going to drop in the chat. It's also on the slides. And this is helpful just as a way for you to go through, make sure your courses are ready, and there's nice tutorials here linked for everything that we show you. But that is pretty much what I have for today. So if you have additional questions or something you want me to show you again, I can certainly do that.